So the internet has all sorts of information available for anybody who wants to use it. It's called the information superhighway because you can find just about anything on it. But not all of that information is reliable. Sometimes people are out there just to mislead you. Sometimes what's on the internet is just misinformed, or it's biased, or it's just not as factual as some people make it out to be. So in this brief episode, I'm going to discuss how to search for reliable material on the web so that we can cite sources and talk about things with our friends and in public and in papers, but do so in a manner that's consistent with more scientific approaches. Right, so I've chosen a topic here that's been in the news quite a lot, first of all. You might see it on packaging. Gluten-free is pretty much taken over the world of nutrition, and all sorts of artisanal and organic food producers are labeling their packages gluten-free. But a lot of people, I'm assuming, don't really know what gluten is. We automatically assume it's bad for us because we see that a package of food in the health aisle has gluten-free written all over it, and we're seeing commercials that have gluten-free poised as something that's healthier. But is it really? So I did a quick Google search, and I found 158 million results on gluten alone. Right, and I could have typed in various other words in the search string, but just gluten alone gives us all sorts of information. So the first thing I did was look at the domain names and domain suffixes. And so basically, I'm of the opinion that most of what's on the internet is not the type of material that I'm going to cite in a research paper or use for a school paper or a school discussion or anything formal. And for me, that includes daily conversations. So I kind of avoid a lot of these lesser known sites and things that are clearly anti-gluten or anti-one thing. I look for .edu suffixes, .gov suffixes, and domain names that are out of trusted publications. WebMD is sort of new in the world of publishing, but it does offer reliable information. We've all heard of it. It is a bunch of doctors and medical professionals who run it. We've got all these accreditation seals on the bottom. That tells us that the information here has been fact-checked, unlike something like Wikipedia, which may or may not have factual information. So here, what is gluten? A Guide to a Healthy Kitchen, The Truth About Gluten, reviewed by Louise Chong, MD, right? So this is our fact checker. And she's a medical doctor. Now, she might have political orientation. She might sway one way or the other, but we should be able to trust her a little bit more than an anonymous poster, in theory. And here we have another doctor, Peter H.R. Green from the Celiac Disease Center at Columbia University, said the market for gluten-free products is exploding, and of course we all know that. Why, we don't know, he says. Many people have just perceived that gluten-free diet is healthier, and in fact it isn't. Now, that's not what the doctor said, but we get into the where and the why of that statement in just a moment. And unless people are very, very careful, and this is what the doctor's saying again, a gluten-free diet can lack vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Right? So gluten is a naturally occurring protein that's found in wheats, right, and other grains. And most of us maybe don't know that. We just thought that it was healthier to eat gluten-free stuff. But in fact, only people with celiac disease will have these symptoms of diarrhea, anemia, skin rash, and they'll have some reaction to the gluten. Right, so here's the New Yorker. Most of us might have heard of this. It's just a magazine or an online publication. This guy's not a doctor. And he's asking the question, should you go gluten-free? And I would expect that he's going to present both sides of the argument. And in some way, I think he does. But this is an interesting fact, or at least statistic that he brought up. Nearly 20 million people contend they regularly experience distress after eating products that contain gluten, and a third of American adults say they're trying to eliminate it from their diets. This third of American adults is certainly larger than the 20 million people who experience distress. So there are a lot of people out there who are changing, who are trying to eliminate gluten from their diets, even though they don't experience any distress with it. Suggesting again that they're using gluten-free products for some other reason, and I reckon part of that is misinformation. Here we have another one, BBC Good Food. BBC is, as they bill themselves, the most trusted name in news broadcasting. They do offer generally unbiased opinion, and they give, again, more information about what gluten is, who shouldn't eat it, right, and what kind of implications a gluten-free diet has, right? It says right here, the gluten-free diets may not be as high in fiber, iron, folic acid, and vitamin B, as well as other minerals, according to WebMD. So, I would be careful, just if you have not looked into why gluten-free is taken over. Another thing that's been in the news a lot as far as what we eat is GMO foods. And of course, there have been many activists who think that these foods cause cancer and genetic mutations, and they've claimed various studies have shown these things, but in fact, as we see in these sites and others available on the web, right, from reliable sources like University of Utah and the World Health Organization, the facts are not all in. The jury is most certainly still out on whether or not GMOs are good or bad or neutral. And in fact, the World Health Organization probably puts out the most comprehensive information. And perhaps this type of web page is not exciting. It doesn't have a lot of pictures. It's just a bunch of text, lists of things. And if you read through this like I did yesterday, you might find that it's sort of ambiguous. There's not a clear answer in either direction. Here we see, are GM foods safe? And they can't make a comprehensive conclusion on that. They've basically said that all foods that are put into market have to pass safety assessments. And if they're at market, they're not likely to present risk to humans. Of course, there are other issues like the three main problems that most people have talked about with GMO foods: direct health effects, toxicity, potential to provoke allergic reactions, and specific components thought to have nutritional toxic properties. The other one is the stability of the inserted gene, or the nutritional effects associated with genetic modification. And basically what we conclude is that there's not enough data available at this point. We don't have several generations of human beings available for study to show that genes are mutated, that allergies are popping up where they didn't otherwise exist. GMOs haven't been around for long enough to really see that. So before we jump to the conclusion that it's absolutely going to change our DNA and that we're going to get cancer if we eat GMOs, we should look at the fact that various products we already eat have GMOs, and there's no clear, substantiated, demonstrable harm associated with GMOs. If they pass the FDA and other tests for safety, then they are in fact safe. Now you can believe whatever you want to believe. Much in the same way that people who believe the moon landings are fake believe what they want to believe. And there are certainly plenty of less reliable websites, Hackaday. I'm sure Alex Jones might have a theory. Various other websites, more than 1 million of them. Probably half are going to talk about how the moon landings were fake. But if we look at Time magazine's generally neutral, unbiased, and I would say they're even less trusting of the government than, I don't know, NASA. Most certainly less trusting than NASA. They're going to give just basic information about what people believe or is a conspiracy. Yet this one right here, this sentence right here, provoked my defensive response in favor of NASA more than anything. Never mind the astronauts brought back hundreds of independently verified moon rocks. Of course, you can believe what you want to believe. You can believe that that little flag is moving right there. You can believe that this is a Hollywood soundstage. But you can't do much about those moon rocks that they brought back. Right? So when you're looking on the internet and when you hear things from friends about they saw this or that on the internet, you might want to look and just verify those sources. Look at who or what is sponsoring the sources. Are they subject to libel laws? Are they independent? Are they anonymous? Are they major corporations with interests, or are they generally trusted publications? And of course, there are underlying theories of what we're going to believe and not believe depending on the source, but it's always important to at least stay open-minded, of course, and be willing to believe that the powers that be aren't just trying to trick us all the time, especially when we have all sorts of independent investigators and scientists looking to fact check and hold government offices accountable, and things like the FDA, they're subject to private and public oversight. So while doing your web searches, be mindful of the domain names, the domain suffixes, and try to at least look at a few different sites and get a clearer view of all the information available rather than just believing one because it's provocative.